I was born in the year 1931, the 16th of December. My mother's name was Rose Clark, and my father's name was George Lindo. And I grew up to know myself at the age approximately 3 years of age. I run around Cedar Valley district, that my grandmother's home, where I was growing up. I attended the Clarksonville all-age school, and the teacher that taught me was F.A. Bourne, and his wife was Miss Clare. They lived at the cottage above the school. And I was very active in school. I did a lot of activities, and I graduated at the age of 13, and that was in the year 1940.
I was born Louise Lindo. My mother was Daisy Mae Jones, married Louise Williams. My father, Joseph Williams. My mother had me when she was 42 years of age. She said if she had waited a couple more years, she would never have me. So thank God she did. I was born in Clarksonville, K Valley, St. Anne. Where I'm sitting now was the cellar of my mother's original home. She said when I was born on that Friday afternoon, I wasn't bigger than her scissors. And the scissors, her scissors were smaller than this one. So can you imagine how small I was? Well, my mother had 9 children, and I'm the last. Thank God. I went to school, Clarksonville School, when I was 6 years of age. My name never called for a whole year.
I went to tailor trade. I started with one tailor by the name of Mr. Kesserly Johnson. He was my tutor. I went on with him until he taught me nothing, a little farming, etc., etc. And after leaving Mr. Johnson, I went to one Taylor Palmer. He was working in Cape Valley. He was a very nice man to me, and he treated me very nicely. And I got the trade from him. I worked with him until other boys was coming along, so I left the shop to give the younger boys space to get on. And I went on my own. I did tailoring all through those years until I immigrated to England.
Growing up, I had no father. He left home when I was 2. A short little half Indian man. My mother used to sell in the market baked goods, flitters and drops and, those goodies. To a door. We had to carry water from home to Parish Tank and Cape Valley when it was drought. We walked barefooted. All the hills around Clarksonville, I know them. Well, my father died when I was 6 years of age, and my mother remarried when I was 8. We went to Trelawney, thank God. I saw the sea and the nice fishes, and we eat what they call the crab and the soldier. Come back and forth from Trelawney every 6 months. I'm in Trelawney and I'm in here. So I visited many schools. I didn't get such a good education. Going from one school to the other, that's not good. My Sunday school and church was Clarksonville Baptist. Growing up, I was very quiet, but very pretty, I mean, nice, long, pretty hair. But it's all, look at this now. Nothing is left, but thank God. Walk barefooted into the rocks, not like now. Growing up, we did not know about the cook-up meat and the cook-down and the jerk this because there was no such thing as jerking. But my mother always loved soup. And tell me what, every Wednesday she have to buy the goat tripe, the belly, and we make soup. I grew up on the bush cabbage, which England call it collard green, and the American call it greens. And when they cook it with the smoked turkey neck, and oh boy, it is so good.
1951, we had a flood in Cape Valley, and all of us machine was buried up in the water for several days. We have a lot of spoiled goods and things like those. However, we went through that flood and we came back, still in Cape Valley, have our machines repaired and back in business. And I worked there until I left and went on my own and started working up Sergeant Bennett rented me a shop, and I worked there, did verbal on my trade, tailoring, until I immigrated to England in 1959. And I went to England. I didn't get back on the trade. I went on the transport. Yes, they taught me to drive double-deck buses. And I worked driving those buses for 18 years until I left England and immigrated again to the United States.
I spent 12 years in England. I'm seeing a new life. new people, new culture, but I never get anything because I brought what I have with me to England. Well, I migrated to the United States. But before that, 1963, the 16th of March, I went to have a baby, the last one. It was a breech. So they took it, they damaged the baby, killed it. It only lived 2 hours. And I'm now 77 and still suffering from that ordeal. I had 6 operations. Still feeling the pain. Well, I spent 31 years in America. Tough, but nice. I make nice use of the time.
Like in England for you?
Yes, it was pretty good. Life in England was quite good. I had always have a job, and I worked hard. I was pretty well secured. I had good insurance. If I was ill or unable to work, I could get a salary, as it was, you know. I got married in England, and we raised 3 children, schooled them, and everybody's grown to be big men and women now on their own. And I stayed in the States until I went back to England. I went back on my same job, driving double-deck buses. And I went on those until...
So why did you go back to England?
Oh, I went back to England because I didn't have a stable job in the States.
Oh.
I was doing little jobs here and there, and I know that I had a stable job. Because when I resigned the job in England, the person told me that anywhere I go in the world, I can come back to my job because I was a good worker, and I was, I did well with people as handling people, when you have to work with the community, you meet all sorts. And then if you know how to handle yourself, you could have kept out of trouble, which I did, and I did very well. And going back to England now, I went back on the same job, and I worked on that job until I retired. And came back to Jamaica. So I'm now residing in Jamaica. All the children are grown, they are big, they are on their own. So just myself and my wife now, we are elderly people, and we just taking life easy as life goes on. Rough and tough sometimes, but you have to stay in the shop and do the best you can until such time as the Lord say otherwise.
I came to Brooklyn in 1971, September 2nd, and we lived there. I sent for my children and husband. We lived in Brooklyn for 8 years. We moved to Massachusetts and spent 8 years there. We moved, children separated. We moved to St. Augustine, Florida, and spent 3 years and 5 months. I went to California with my 2 grandchildren, and I spent 3 years and 5 months. Then I returned back to Fort Lauderdale, and we went to Miramar, which I spent 10 years, and now I'm home. I'm home now for 11 years. We have hard times, good times, happy times in church, thank God. Now I'm home.
Here we are. I work in the church as well. Did a lot of activities in the church. I went on until I had to pastor 2 churches in the States. One in Massachusetts, Springfield, and one in Florida, South Florida. I lived in Miramar in South Florida. And, ups and downs, ups and downs. Life is consists of many stages, and you have to go through all these stages. As I've said, rough, tough. When the going gets rough, you have to be tough to really battle it out, We go on until at this stage I'm retired. I have a fairly good pension, and I live on that. I can buy my bread, and God help me that my head is covered. So on and so on. So that's the way the music plays.
I left home 1959, went to England. There was a book called Dick Whittington and His Cat, and how the street of London was paved with gold. So when I reached England, I was looking to see if there was gold on the street. But to my surprise, there was none. Well, 6 days after I landed, I got a job at Goodyear, my first job ever. Painting the tire tubes, and I spent 7 months there. All the tar was on my hand. Those days, you have to live in one room. Different families live in one house, using one kitchen, and we have to put the money in the slot. So some of the tenants wouldn't drop any money in there. They live off the other people. It was so awful. When the winter comes, you can't go to work, because just new in the country, you have to have the proper gears. Now, the little money we were earning then was only £4.10 per week. I have to pay £2.10 for one room, and then £2, the rest of £2 couldn't carry. So what you do? You're starving. But we still have to bear it because we're not at home, so we have to try to make ends meet. In 1960, I married to my husband, still married, the 18th of February. And 1961, I had my son, Howard, the 9th of December. And we struggled along. I spent the 12 years in England, but I could only work 1 because of illness. Every 2 weeks, my husband have to take his pay, which was only £12 per week. I couldn't work. £6 for the doctor, £6 to hire a car. To London, Manchester, everywhere in England that we hear about a good doctor. Because after they damaged me, they would not take me back in the hospital or any hospital to fix what was wrong. I was there dying, and one day a new doctor came, Dr. Grant. When I went to him and he examined me, he said, "Poor little Jamaican girl." He called a private hospital and told Dr. Gray that there's a little lady here that is dying. So they had me in the hospital for 7 days, no saline, nothing, just resting. Well, 6 months, that was July 17. September 2nd, I migrated to America. Just had an operation a month. Oh Lord. I was in the Bronx, and then I heard of a job. Still have the mind to work. I got a job, $70 a week. First in my life, I was going to clean somebody's house. Never worked in my life doing domestic work, but I give it a shot. Mrs. Bighart said to me one day that she had a lady for 15 years, and in 3 months, I cover more work than the one for 15 years. So you see, although I was sick, I have the mind to work. Now in America, I went there legally, but I overstayed, and then I become illegal. I do all kinds of jobs, sometimes $50 a week, and I have to pay my brother $42 per week out of $50. I went to another job that was $65. I still have to pay him $42 out of $65 and have my bus fare out of it. I sent for my 3 children. They were on me. Nobody tried to help. So I decided that I'm going to leave my brother's house, because in 3 months they said, he's saying to me that it's time for me to go back to England. I said, over my dead body, I will go to the place where all of us is the same, in the same position and condition. So I packed up and I went to Brooklyn, where all of us is the same. We have this and we don't have that, and so forth. Now, I remember sleeping on a bed with 4 people. And the church was just next door under the basement. But we all stuck together until we crawled out. Well, God help us so good that I got a nice living job. And the lady said they had a nurse for 6 years, and I was called to do a weekend. And when I went and did the weekend, when I saw the poor patient, the hair was like sheep's wool. And I came home the Sunday morning, and in the afternoon, I got a call. Ruth's nephew said, his aunt want me to come to work. I said, but I'm only working weekend. He said, Louise, my aunt said she wants you. If she don't get you, then she's going to do something, but she have to get you. I said, but how can I? And there's a nurse there and another nurse there. He said, do you want the job? So when I think about it, I said, yes. Well, that Sunday night when I went back to work, I cooked some Jamaican soup for the Jewish lady. And in 3 months, her face was all pink, and I could have her walking. But she never lasted too long. She passed away. And before she passed away, the morning I went to look for her, and I saw the pill falling out from her mouth, and I got her on the commode and started to wash her up, make her bed up, and I tried to put her, remember now, I have a severe back pain, but when trouble take you, they said, pick me shirt, fit you. So it fit me that day. I picked up this long, tall woman and put her on the bed and stretch her out, get her dentures, put it in her mouth, give her some water, and she passed away. I called the person that was in charge. She called the doctor, her brother. When the brother came, the doctor said, of all his 45 years, he has never seen a patient die so clean. Well, the undertaker came and he said, who is taking care of this lady? I said, I do, for 3 months. I said, Jesus, you do this? I pick up dead, dirty, stinking people. And this, he said, they said the same thing like the doctor. That is the cleanest dead they ever handle. Well, surprisingly, my name was all over in the New York Times. People calling me for job. Now, I wasn't a nurse, but in England I've been in the hospital so many times with this problem, having surgery, that I know what to do. Well, from then, I started to get work, more than what I could handle. I got a job into the New York University Hospital. And I started to run ward. And the head nurse came to me and said, "Where did you learn nursing from?" I said, "Oh, England. I never go to school, but I've seen it done. And even in England, when I had surgery, in the hospital, there were sick people over on the other side, and I went and I started to bathe them. And in England, the sister one day, Sister Davis, walking by and said, "Oh my God, dead is helping dead." But it's in my mind to do good to others. Well, in New York, I've done so many jobs. I work in the factory. I would sewing factory. I would leave from the sewing factory to the UPS and checking the packages them, and then from then I would go home, reaching home 2 o'clock in the morning, because I leave 5 o'clock to the sewing job, and from then I have to run to the Long Island, and from the UPS I have to go back to Brooklyn, sleep 2 hours or 3, and back again. Well, it couldn't work. My head started to hurt, having blood pressure, which I didn't have any. I went to another doctor called Dr. Davis. He said, "No, you have to get out of New York. This city is too busy for you, too much rushing." Well, we went to Massachusetts. Oh my God, it was so peaceful and quiet. But tell me what, it was colder than England. Mm-hmm. It was colder than New York. And I got a job in the municipal hospital. I spent 5 years there. And from the hospital, I would leave before I reach home, and I would stop at the dry cleaner's place and do alteration. And from then, I would go home and take a shower and go to Buckley Nursing Home. So I have 3 jobs in one day. And then the snow started to fall in April of 95. And I looked out. My husband was in England, and I said, "God, no more." I was on my, a man was to pick me up to put me into the hospital that I get, they call it pain management clinic. But it's a hospital that you have to go Monday to Friday. So this teacher now have to pass the hospital. So he would pick me up and drop me up at Providence Hospital. That morning, we have a 6-foot fence, and the snow cover from the road over the 6-foot fence to our porch. It's like you could slide on it. While there was a lady across the street, she was in labor, and the snow truck could not get into our little street from night until 2 o'clock that afternoon. Well, I said to myself, "God help me that I'll see no more snow." Well, unfortunately or fortunately, I got something, a card into the mail. And it said, "Oh, you have won a vacation." I knew nothing about vacation. So I called my daughter in New York. I said, "But the card is saying that I have to have credit card, and that I don't even know what a credit card look like." So my daughter was working in the bank, so she gave me some numbers. When I called Florida said, "Oh, the number is wrong. You must either have an A or a 0. So I called back my daughter. She said, "Oh yes, an A." I called back Florida. I said, "Oh, it's an A." She said, "That's right. That's right." You know, I didn't see her, but the way she was going, I could, see the expression and the excitement. Anyway, they said I must send in $25. We send in this $25. They call us and give us a date that we could come into Florida for this vacation. My husband was here then. We went drive down to Florida with my 2 grandchildren and my old 90-year-old mother. We got the resort, very nice, free. They gave us back the $25, but tell me what, there was a trick, because they were selling timeshare. That means it's an apartment that 100 of you could own. So 1 year I would spend 2 weeks, and another year another one spend 2 weeks, and we go all over the place. We couldn't afford that. So we went with the trick, and they said, oh yes, we'll buy it. So they came down and they hit on the gong, the big gong, you know, and hit on. Oh, we sold one. But trouble now. The lady came to us and asked the husband to write the check. The husband said, oh my God, I leave the checkbook at home. So, you know, the eyebrows start to knit up. So I said, I never know, we just carry a little cash for the vacation, not knowing that you were selling something. Say, oh yes, we are selling timeshare. So I said, how many people are going to own it? They said, as many people as we can get. So I said, the husband said, okay, when we get back, I'll send you a check. Well, on our way back to Florida, we saw real estate. We stopped in there and asked, how can we get somewhere to buy? A house to buy. The lady said, oh, you can't buy a house down here. What you have to do is we can get you a lot and you buy a mobile home. We did not know what a mobile home looked like. Anyway, she said, before you go back, I'm going to send you to look on a mobile home. So we went and looked on a mobile home. The best, the top of the line on the lot. Very nice. Well, we travel home. We put up the sign this morning on our house for sale. And in the afternoon, it was sold. Just like that. And we packed up and we went to St. Augustine, Florida. Now we enjoy ourselves because the sea was less than 20 miles away. You could put your pot on the fire and go and fish. And I love fishing. One day I went all by myself with my line, threw out my line and start to wheel in, and I saw the top of it start to bend down, and I stick my foot into the rock, and there was an excursion boat passing along, and they turn and come close up to the jetty. And I was wheeling in, and a man jumped out from somewhere else and came and helped me to get that fish out. The fish was like this. In England, they would call it plaice. Underneath is white and the back is brown with two eyes out here. It's the sweetest fish one ever eat. So I rush home. We clean it up and we cook the best dinner. Now in St. Augustine, Florida, we had an acre of land. The home was a 3-bedroom, living, kitchen, and so forth. We were on an acre of land and all fenced in. We have 120 goats, Nubian goats. One called Nanny gives a gallon of milk each day. We have 5 dogs. We have ducks. We have a goose this big. Her egg was this big. And we enjoy ourselves very much. One day, I was going to buy feeding for the goats. We have a little shed. I went inside, and we have a ferret. A ferret, they call it polecat, but in captivity it is called ferret. I was going to buy feeding. So I took out these bags, feed bags, put it in the large station wagon and drove off to Hastings. While I was gathering the bags for the feeding to come into, I saw a snake run out of the bag. Man, I don't know how I reached on top of that high station wagon. But again, they said, when trouble take you, pick the shot fit you. And the shot was big enough to fit me. One day we went to get feeding. And then there are some, what they call the tree? Oak tree. So we went to dig up a couple of the oak tree to plant at our new home.
I remember that.
All right, you talk now.
What was under that oak tree? Right at the root. A snake curl up. Yeah. A snake curl up right at the root of the tree. What me was pulling up, trying to dig up. And when I behold that snake, I took off.
What did you say? What did you say?
Lou. Snake.
He said, Lord God, Lou, Lord God, Lou.
Oh, God. It's a joke.
From St. Augustine, we had our mother with us, my mother, and would take her out. Would take her out the outside. Before that, my husband said that one morning he was looking through the window and all he saw was a snake. But because St. Augustine, Florida, up there is snake land. And he saw the snake, and what did he do?
The snake was coming towards the house from the the gully, little trench-like.
Ditch.
Crawling ditch. She's crawling up. I mean, snake, big, but I'm behind the elbow here. And me in the house, because it can't come in the house. But I was so scared of snake that I was shivering. And when I look and saw the thing coming in, we understand that snake don't, what they do? They don't
hear.
They don't see or something like
Hear.
that.
It's vibration.
Yeah. And it was coming up. So I don't know if I did anything, step or what. And he hold up his head like that. And he looked around. And he went right back down in the drain there.
The ditch.
The ditch where he was staying.
And one day now, walking in the yard, going up to the goat pen, when I look over in another ditch, I saw a long snake looking at me and doing that here. I said, "You brute, you."